I didn't win last night. I had a chance. I got two chances for grand slams in the top of the ninth for the Cardinals, and I would have won the $88. That was my best hope because I did stack the 4-man of the Cardinals, and Goldschmidt had hit a home run, Arenado hit a home run, Donovan had 3 hits, and was looking good to get there. But basically, what I'm going to talk about real quick is just before we get into Sheets' thing. My strategy for today is I'm doing the mass multi-entry thing. I think I need to sort of revisit some of my stuff because I have good ideas, and then I end up sort of pulling away from it, like only having one set of lineups with St. Louis, as I sort of figured out that I kind of wanted them on the show when I realized the ownership would be low. I think I need to figure this out and get some more exposure out there. So that's my lesson to self. Looks like you had a nice run there, Sheets, in the Monster. Talk about it.
Speaking of the needing of that grand slam, huh?
Oh yeah.
So I saw that ridiculous swing at strike 3 by Nolan Arenado, just like everybody else did.
Oh my God! So you were right there too for a bigger one.
Yeah, this was the 11. This was the Monster on FanDuel, and I did the 4-4 with Colorado and St. Louis, and I just didn't quite get all the way there. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But this was pretty good. This one also got. I used the same lineup in that Roto Grinder single entry thing, and this got like 5th or so in that.
Yeah.
For like 7.
That looks. I mean, that definitely could have been a winner, man.
Yeah. It's very much so.
You get one of those in the ninth because the low ownership. Oh, they were a little more popular on FanDuel, but man.
No, but Arenado was 6%.
Yeah, I know he was only like 3% on the DraftKings, but still, he was, But that's. I mean, that would have been huge. But look. It happens.
I'm not complaining about this. Do you want to know the truth? Are you kidding?
No, I know you're not going to. I would be. Just in the interest of complete transparency. You would have won because you had the other 2 guys.
I don't know. Let me just see. The guy who won I needed to get another. I needed like 40 points.
Yeah, counting your guys on base, you would have gotten it. Oh no, they both scored anyway. Goldschmidt.
Yeah. They wouldn't have quite gotten there.
So you would have been like 3 points short.
I didn't have the Ha-Seong Kim with the 2 home runs.
Yeah, I had him in my Cardinals stack actually. That was why I was especially frustrated. Just nothing else from the Padres though.
And then I cashed in the 4 ball or whatever. That's the one I had the Kansas City who started off like on fire, and then Perez hit the home run and put me in first in that, but that one had Corbin in it.
And he was doing great, and then he did his first.
And then he wasn't, yeah. And even with Corbin, it still was worked out okay. But you just can't have 7 points. It's not going to do it.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if you ended up sticking with any of the Ashcraft because he ended up doing really, really well.
Yeah, he was in that one that I could have won with had I got the hook.
Oh wow.
It was Ashcraft. My pictures in that one were Ashcraft and what's his name? I ended up the one lineup I used the cheap guy Yarbrough, and he had like 14 and Ashcraft had 18, so it was actually like a perfect combination, like with the spend ups. But live and learn, and today, so I will be talking a little bit different as we go through games, just because I think I need to improve my overall play. I don't want to be just results oriented, but there's definitely something that it's right there for me. There's the 111 today. I can play spread out some lineups over there. There's the 222 on FanDuel, and then there's the $3 that they have the 150 max every day, which I just need to play. So I need to write a script, and that's what I'm going to be doing differently today.
So first thing about today is that there's definitely weather here.
Yeah.
So specifically, Atlanta at Boston. Which is
Boston. Yeah, in Baltimore.
That's a really big deal. I mean, considering that Atlanta's rates to be probably the best stack. Then there's
there's your Yankee game too.
The Yankees, there's like a room. There might be like a little bit of thunderstorms for a minute. You know what I mean? I don't think it's a big deal. Well, so I'm supposed to be playing golf with Matt at like 6:30. So for like an hour and a half, I'll give you a better idea then.
Yeah.
And I see Colorado, Washington, maybe, but again, Washington could be fishy sometimes. So be careful on that.
Yeah. Well,
Baltimore, Philly. That's not in the main slate, right? No. Okay.
It's not on the main. Oh, that's very. Wait, no, Washington.
No. Baltimore at Philly is not on the main.
Yeah, Baltimore, Philly is not on the main slate. But Washington is like the one that always scares me because even when people feel good and they say that the weather looks okay, we just have seen it happen so.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. That's what I said when I said they're fishy over there. They can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're right about that. All right, well let's get into it. Let's go game by game and see what we can figure out here. And this is another good argument for why it makes sense to have, I don't know why I'm excited to at least be going back to my old scripting stuff, because it's I'll embrace the variance when I'm playing 150.
So let me ask you: are you going to like set your own? Are you going to use SaberSim? Or are you going to set your own rules with Lineup HQ? I mean, how are you going to do it?
I'm going to do it through SaberSim, but I'll set my own rules in there. I'll do all the stuff. I've done it a few times. I did it for the NBA a couple times with SaberSim. I've done it for. I did it more back in the day on RG, but
no, I know that. That's why I'm asking. Like,
I've adjusted a little bit. I understand SaberSim is going to give me some things. So what I tend to do, like if this was a big football weekend and I was playing 150, this is what I've done in the past. I'll either build a script for 50 lineups or 75, and either trickle it down and make the hand adjustments for them. So for some of them. So anyway, all right, let's move on. Let's get into the day slate. Let's look at the game by game. But nice, at least you had a nice day yesterday.
Yeah,
that's good. That's good to see. So the first one up that I have here, let's see. We'll use your screen because I don't need to juggle anymore. You want to pull up your DraftKings?
I thought I had it up already.
No, you got the FanDuel.
It's so funny the way that worked because let's share this tab instead. There you go.
There we go. Okay. All right, Herman and this is your game. You started off. This is you're the New York guy here.
Yeah. This is one of those that I don't have either Verlander or Herman when you just like look at my sheets as being a priority. Like I have like 5 or 6 pitchers like better than them. And then when I actually ran a SaberSim build, it just really wanted me to play a lot of Verlander, which is interesting to me. So I have to I guess ask you your opinion on that. I would have Verlander right now as 28% if I stuck with what DraftKings wanted me to do. But I do prefer others a little bit better, but he certainly is in the mix. Herman, I would have thought I'd get to a little bit, but not really. What I am getting, it's funny, is that again when I do my SaberSim build, at least the early ones, like the Mets were actually my top owned stack.
Wow.
And again, maybe that's because of ownership or whatever, but that's what I have. Because when I actually look at my sheets, I really don't have them as that big of a priority. So I'm going to take another look at this. But right now, I would say instinctively, I'd probably want to play someone other than Verlander. Okay, that's just my instinct on this. And my instinct is that I probably wouldn't want to play the Mets against Herman. So I probably am going to force my way off of this when I probably should stay on it.
Yeah, I have interest in both pitchers to some extent. Probably, they're two guys who I definitely don't mind being overweight on. We've seen the Mets struggle at times. I'm just going to pull up some updated. One thing I've also going to start doing is I've been looking at season stats for so long, and it's really time to start adjusting to last month's stats. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because you're getting. Usually, I wait till right before the September call-ups for that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But we just have so many different guys playing than we're playing before, and. Take Cincinnati. They literally have like 1 or 2 guys that were actually on like the starting lineup, and obviously they've been better for it. But the Mets, just the season against righties, it's not that they don't strike out a ton, they don't hit much either, but they have been they've struggled at times. So I'm just open to both pitchers. Herman has been really, really good lately. I know he gave up a big home run that cost him a really good outing his last time out. But I'll give the edge to Verlander as the guys I prefer. So that's where I'm at right now.
I would also like to say that maybe not as much today as it will be later in the week, but it is supposed to be hot in New York for the whole week. So just throw that out there.
That's good. It's going to be, and by the way, I'll throw that right back. It's going to be hot in California as well.
Okay, we'll get there.
We'll remember that with everything. When Santa Barbara starts hitting the 90s and stuff, and you're on the water, it means like 105 at least. All right, so Washington, Colorado feels like an obvious spot where people are going to want to attack. I'm always lower on Colorado outside of Colorado, although I look, they had a good day yesterday. I like picking on Trevor Williams in general. I am a little lower on picking on Gomber, as I mentioned, because everyone does. And I mean, look, we've got 6 straight starts in a row where he's got double-digit fantasy points. It may not sound like much, but you're not beating anybody who's scoring double-digit fantasy points to win a tournament. You have cheap pieces from Washington, and you've got depending on what lineup. If Cron and McMahon are in the lineup for Colorado, I will have some interest in Colorado stacks. But as of right now, I'm probably going to be pretty low on this, considering that I think some people are going to go there. Where do you stand here?
Yeah, I'm like off of this whole game.
Okay.
Yeah, I have interest in neither pitcher and neither hitter. I just assumed it to go on, actually.
All right, let's do it. All right, Atlanta, Boston. Why don't you, assuming that it plays, why don't you start us off here?
Assuming it plays, I like both sides of the hitting in this game. I like Atlanta rates as just light years the best stack, just on raw points or whatever. Obviously, it's like kind of tough to get to some of them, but there are pitchers you could play. And then I like Boston as well. So if this game plays, I would go with both of them. I myself am not going to get to Charlie Morton in this spot. So that's where I'm at. If they play, both hit both sets of bats.
If you could tell me for sure that Nick Pivetta was coming in like he did against the A's the last time and staying in the game, I actually think I would play a little bit of Pivetta just to get off of some of the chalk. He's 6,600. It seems like a crazy play, but he's sort of, I know it was the A's, but he completely lit him up. He struck out 13 of the 20 guys he faced. His strikeout numbers have been awesome lately. And I just think that there's enough upside at 6,600 to consider him. I just can't play a guy who I don't know if he's going to pitch, or if he comes in like he did the next time out, he pitched 1 inning. Charlie Morton is going to be 1% owned. So I'll probably because I'm mass building, it probably ends up in like 4 or 5% of my lineups, but I don't see this as a priority. Like you, I would say the bats are the priority. It's 80 degrees and with a little wind blowing out in Boston. And I think this is pretty clearly where everyone's going to be going, right? The problem is, how do you play Atlanta? It's just the same question we have every day. Can we find cheap enough pitching? But if you can, and if the game plays, I like both sides, but I definitely strongly prefer Atlanta to Boston. The thing is, Boston's just cheaper.
Well, I mean, since you mentioned it, asked the rhetorical question, how do you play Atlanta? Well, one of the answers is in the next game. So you have Aaron Savali at 7,200 against Kansas City, and that's a way to save salary. And so you can play that. I also have Cleveland as just barely on the outside looking in as far as stacks go. So that's kind of where I'm at. Savali is a very, very reasonable salary saver who I think is going to be pretty popular. There are a couple though, but Savali and a little bit of Cleveland.
Yeah. So I would prefer Cleveland as pieces. As I always mention, Greinke doesn't walk a ton of guys. Cleveland doesn't have a ton of power. It actually is a spot where, I don't know, for whatever reason, Greinke was like 5K flat. He's close enough.
Yeah.
I actually think you could consider him. That's what I thought you were going to say, which is really crazy to do. But
I don't think I've ever played him, actually.
I want to branch out. Yeah, you have. You played him last year.
Did I?
Yeah, you talked. I think you were right too. I think he put up 16 fantasy points and he was 5K.
I get him confused with Jordan Lyles.
Oh, yeah. Savali, I think, is completely viable. He just completely dominated this team the last time out. Not his last start, but the last time he faced them. Doesn't mean we should take a ton from that. But one thing I just want to point out is that with Salvador Perez back and Bobby Witt playing every day, this lineup is better than it was a couple weeks ago. And I think that they're still being treated like they're not. So my initial thought is, play some Savali, bet the over on the game, especially if you can just bet the Royals over. It should not be 3.5. That's my thought. So I will have some Savali, though. I don't think it's a massive priority for me right now, but he's probably going to end up in decent lineups and have to reassess by the time we're done. And yeah, I would get to some Cleveland pieces, namely that would be probably Jose Ramirez and Josh Naylor as always. All right, moving on to Seattle and Minnesota. What are you doing here, Sheet? Is that what you got next?
Yeah. So they just played this game
Yep.
with these two pitchers, actually. And Kirby was in fuego with 36 fantasy points and a million strikeouts. Pablo Lopez was the weaker of the pitchers on that occasion. Although one thing about Pablo Lopez, you look through, I mean, he's like 100 pitches every single start.
Yeah, he really does. He battles.
100 pitches every start. I don't have him at the top, Lopez. And actually, I see him getting owned 20% plus, so probably going to be off of that, actually.
Why is he more popular than Kirby here?
I don't know.
With the 1,700 price gap, right?
Yeah, Kirby isn't projecting all that great. Maybe that's why. But I can't imagine playing Lopez instead of Kirby, if you want to know the truth. So but even so, I mean, I have Kirby kind of secondary as well. So for me, I'm probably going to use, in MME, I'll get to both of them, but I'm not making either of them the priority in my big buy-ins. I don't think.
I'll make Kirby a priority, and I think that both have a good case for being priorities. The one thing they've got going against them is it's 91 degrees in Minnesota. I keep pointing this out because I do think those things matter. It's not going to matter every game. But for a guy who pitches to contact like Kirby, there is certainly a chance to get him in trouble. And while I like him, I think like when you look at like Kirilloff, Kepler, Wallner in the 3-4-5, I think a mini stack of Minnesota in that rate, because Kirby you never want to stack against. First of all, he's a great pitcher and he never walks anybody. But if you want to talk about, he does give up home runs because he's going to pitch to contact all the time. And you've got three guys who have good power, all in the 2Ks batting 3-4-5 against him. If people are really not going to play Kirby and he's going to be like less than 10% owned, people should be playing some Kirilloff, Kepler, Wallner just for the price thing. You could play Julien too, but that's probably the larger pinch hit risk. I guess Wallner as well. You even have Larnach. It depends on how their lineup shakes out, but they're just going to have so many cheap pieces. What if they mess around and throw Joey Gallo back up at the top? I just want to take a home run shot against Kirby. That's all I really wanted to highlight from the hitting side of it. All right, Cincinnati, Milwaukee, Sheets. What do you got?
You got two really freaking hot pitchers with Abbott and Burns. Yeah, okay, Abbott could be the future, whatever, but there's no way I'm paying more for Abbott than Burns. I don't so I think Burns is one of the top two pitchers on the slate. I think he's going to be 30% owned plus. And he was impossible in his last start, if you want to know the truth. Actually, you know what? I have to say, I don't want to be stingy or whatever, the Grinch that stole Corbin Burns. But I was watching him and I had him and all this stuff. There were a couple of innings where he got bailed up by double plays, couple innings where whatever, he wasn't exactly, perfect. He was like 3-2 to some guys. So all right, maybe I'm getting a little greedy. And Cincinnati can hit the ball. What you're really supposed to do this game, like if I were feeling saucy, between Abbott and Burns with all their freaking ceilings and I'd probably just bet the over just to be a pain in the ass. But Burns is projecting to be one of the top two pitchers on the slate. He's getting owned as a result, and it's a decision you're going to have to make. And I'm not getting to any of the hitting here.
So just to point out a couple of things about what you said. Abbott, first of all, is a better fantasy scorer than Burns is. Regardless of what anybody thinks, I'm just telling you the raw numbers. Abbott is better. And by the way, outside of the one Burns crazy game, I think Abbott actually has a higher ceiling. He's basically been untouchable. He's the highest scoring pitcher on the slate on average by a couple points, actually, which is pretty decent. I'm not going to keep sleeping on this guy. Like I said it last time he pitched, and I was very happy that it worked out well. But I really think that I don't see why we think Corbin Burns has to be a better pitcher. He's certainly not. I don't think he's going to be a better fantasy pitcher over the next 5 years than Abbott is. He may, in fact, be a better real-life pitcher right now, but I don't even know how much that's entirely true. So I like both these guys. I'll take the low ownership on Abbott. And again, my point of view is a little different today because I do think guys like Burns are going to be safer here and things like that most of the time. But I would rather gamble on a guy at 150 when I'm mass entering, or maybe even more, maybe like 160 ownership between Abbott and Burns. Give me the Abbott. Like I'll take the guy who has shown, the better producer.
Well, I will just say. I mean, you can look at this one of two ways, okay? But Abbott he pitched against Milwaukee twice in a row, and he was not the best in either of those two games. Look at that either way. And Burns in his last start against Cincinnati was freaking Roger Clemens. You know, you can flip flop. You can make the case either way. But you know what case you can really make? You make the case that reflects the ownership, right? Yeah. So, like you said, Burns is going to be 30, Abbott's going to be 8. You know, and you know, if you're playing for this is one of the reasons you play 150, so you can play Abbott and not feel all whatever about it.
No, but I even go further with it if I'm playing, especially those ones where it takes a million things to win. Just go I would genuinely consider playing like 25, 30% of them, maybe even more.
Okay.
Because I think that it's the kind of play that's worth a gamble. When even though again, like you mentioned, that was the best point that could be made is that Milwaukee, for whatever reason, is the only. In fact, they're the only team he hasn't pitched really well against so far. Right. But I'm just going to believe in the talent level, the strikeout upside, the weak Milwaukee lineup, et cetera, and I love the low ownership. I'm getting a little contrarian, but that's more for MME. But even for I don't feel this is another one of those days. I don't feel incredibly safe with hardly any pitchers. Anyway.
I would be curious to know, by the way, I'd be curious to know how these kind of revenge games with pitchers and hitters and pitchers and opposing teams actually work out. You know, I'm sure people have done work on it. So, because they had the Kirby game, same thing, like against Minnesota. He mowed him down his last start, you know, so how does that? I'm just curious if there's any tracking of that. Anyway.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the Cubs White Sox. Because I actually have a lot to say from a projection perspective about this and from a build perspective. Let me start actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just going to say it what it is. So on DraftKings, I have Chicago as probably the best value overall on the slate. Okay, the Cubs. And pretty good raw points too. Enough for me to say they're probably my favorite overall stack according to the sheets for the Cubs. Now, the next thing I will say is that on FanDuel, I ran a whole bunch of lineups and whatever, and probably my highest owned pitcher is Michael Kopech. So I have no idea what to do. I have no idea what to think of all of this. What do you think of this game?
Yeah, this is a tough one. The Cubs, for what it's worth, are basically average except for a lot of power against right-handed pitching. You do have 10-mile-an-hour winds, I believe, blowing in, and I know it doesn't matter as much for the White Sox as it does the Cubs, but it is probably one of the stadiums that matters the most outside of the Cubs. So 10 miles an hour blowing in from left center. So that sort of turns me off a little bit to the full stacking nature of it because I want the home run upside. I am high on the lefties for the Cubs, and I also think Kopech deserves to be in the consideration. And I'm probably just staying away from the White Sox personally. The guys I want to play are righties. And as I mentioned, this is not a great spot. Maybe you play Yasmani Grandal or something and Gavin Sheets with Berger, he can hit it out anywhere. You could put 20-mile-an-hour winds against him. He's going to have no problem.
It's a big boy.
Yeah, he really hits it. It either goes 450 or it goes 5 feet. I like the idea of playing a little bit of Kopech. And I also think, just point out that Cody Bellinger has been the best hitter in baseball for about a month and a half now. He's hitting 480 over
maybe a year and a half.
No, don't say a year and a half. He was hitting 190 for the Dodgers.
Oh.
So he's one of the guys who left us. Everybody's like, oh yeah, the Dodgers keep complaining. Look at these guys come over. We let our guys go. Look what they're doing. I'm like, we just picked up JD Martinez who had 10 home runs last year, and he's third in the league in slugging. You know what I mean? Anyway. Yes, Kopech, but a little bit of the Cubs lefties. All right, Chiefs, start us off with the other 5-10 or the other 8-10.
Yeah, I have Texas, Houston, and I have this as a pass. Actually, that's not true. On DraftKings, I'm getting about 15% of Texas. And aside from that, I'm not getting anything from this game.
Yeah, I feel kind of stupid for going no Texas yesterday. I even forgot the other guy too. I forgot Semien was out of the lineup too, I believe, yesterday, wasn't he?
Yeah, but everybody the whole game.
They were all out and everybody crushed. Like,
yep.
Maybe he played. Maybe Semien did play. Anyway, I think Texas is viable as an option. They're not my favorite, but I don't have that many teams that I'm totally obsessed with. And I think that Houston is a good option. I don't like. So we're supposed to get Jordan Alvarez back, which maybe shakes up the lineup a little bit. The thing that's weird for me is like Chas McCormick now is 4,900. I mean, these guys are expensive and with like little to show for why they're so expensive.
Oh, because Chas McCormick won like Player of the Month or something like that.
No, I know he's been okay. Yes, so but I'm not going to play a guy just on a hot streak because I would play him if I played the stack. Don't get me wrong, but just a lot to pay for a guy we've literally for 3 years been playing at 2K. Anyway, so I think both teams are in play. I'm not like overly excited about either of them as full stacks.
All right. Forget this. I'm going to make this next thing a priority. Okay. I think about like ways to improve the site or whatever. This is something I thought about literally doing 2 years ago, and it's just got to be done because no other site does it, and they freaking should. And I really want to do it, and I want to kind of use like Evan's like YouTube search thing to kind of help us with this. If I can't figure out how to do it myself, is for our own videos. Like the next day, I want to do like a 10-minute session or 5-minute session before every video to review the best take and the worst take from the day before, and like replay
5 hours of work, right?
And replay like the YouTube video piece.
That's legitimately like 5 hours of work.
I don't think it's going to be that bad.
Believe me, at RG when they did this with us, that's why we had to do things at 4 a.m.
Really?
So they could go through and say stuff like this. Like, I don't think it's definitely not anything that not every other site is doing. Everybody's doing it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Nobody's doing it. I'm saying.
No. RG does it like every day. They take their little clips and they play them. They scatter it throughout. It's not like a show dedicated to it. It's just they use them.
Well, because I was gonna say it was really funny. Like before Kirby's last start, where he struck out like 13 or whatever. I remember distinctly when we were going over that slate. I was saying, well, the thing about Kirby, one thing he's just not doing is striking anybody out.
Yeah.
And that would be like an amazing clip to play like before the next day or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And we could do a best take and worst take. And as we go into this next game, the reason I bring that up is I really love to play back your comments on Yu Darvish from yesterday.
Yeah.
Because you're like, listen, I'm not commenting about anybody on this slate. I mean, Yu Darvish can be like a zillion percent. He's like really volatile or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what you said, but but whatever it was, as Pittsburgh continued to pile it on yesterday.
Yeah.
And thank God they did because listen, I told you I had like these other lineups with these other pitchers, listen, I'm not saying to go against Blake Snell as a result of that, but because of I remember that from last night. I would love for someone to do that. Anyway,
I would love for it to happen too. I think that the only way we can maybe do it is if we start setting up like at the very end of the show, we make like 3 strong takes or something because it's so hard to do.
No, you got to be results oriented. You got to see like what happened and then go back and like
you can't watch the entire show and try and clip.
No, you don't have to watch it. That's first of all, we should be time stamping the games anyway. Okay, after we go through them. Okay. Okay. Obviously, we don't have time, right?
But no, a team to do it. It's just
right.
Yeah, I understand.
Hashtag interns.
Okay.
So anyway, with all that said, Blake Snell to me is the best option on the slate. Him alongside of Burns, and he also is going to be a zillion percent owned, and he also is volatile. So do with that what you will. As far as the hitting goes, I thought that I was going to get more San Diego in my builds, but I am not. So that's kind of where I'm at. Is Snell and nothing for me right now.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm trying to figure this one out because I know that I understand that Snell is going to be really popular and it makes perfect sense. The Pirates strike out a lot against lefties. The interesting thing is the Pirates also hit lefties really well, more for average than they do for anything else. I'm just taking a look at their patience.
Well, that's bad enough when you're a 10K pitcher.
No, I'm just trying to find any other angle on this game. So, you look at their I'm just trying to see what they're again, I'm looking at season stats and I will start shrinking this down, but real good on base percentage. So actually Yeah, I mean, there's an opportunity for them here.
No.
I don't think I'm going to do it on this size of slate, but I don't think it's crazy to play some Pirates. I also think that like the Padres are basically, they're like the fake team in baseball. They're like the team that looks sexy on paper, but they really don't ever produce, or don't produce nearly enough. Having said that, I kind of like them a little bit. I also think that if you want to take a crazy play, maybe Rich Hill is the crazy guy that you can roll with at 6,100 if you want to dive that low. But I don't really feel good about any of it. I think the Padres are fine. I think if the Atlanta-Boston game gets canceled, they're going to be really popular. So I'm sort of not taking any huge stances. And then Snell right now, I have him rated towards the top too. I think he probably would be the top guy for me if I had to pick somebody outside. He and Lopez are close, but I certainly see an argument for fading him. So like probably a below the field, but he's in my big buy-ins type of thing. All right. Next up, we have Arizona and St. Louis.
Yeah. So I didn't even get a projection on Merrill Kelly. I guess I didn't think he was starting or something, or the industry didn't think he was starting. But it says here that he's being activated to start Tuesday against the Cardinals, and he pitched 2 simulated games and is up to 75, and he's due for a normal workload. Okay, against Steven Matz. Okay, so to answer your question again about how do you play Atlanta, all right, you want to play Steven Matz? You could try that.
Wait! I thought you were saying that Kelly was. Oh, I'm sorry. On the other side, yeah.
I'll get back to Merrill Kelly.
That's weird. I thought Gallen was gonna. I had it mixed. Okay.
Yeah. Weird. So Steven Matz, if you want to try that, again, the hope for get 15 fantasy points. Yeah, I mean, sure, you can try that. I'm not getting to any of the hitting. I don't know why this just kind of came to me. But maybe Merrill Kelly's like an awesome play. I can't imagine how or why, but you do prefer to play righties against pitch righties against St. Louis. St. Louis did have a pretty nice dramatic comeback in the ninth to win yesterday. He's going to be 0% owned, and if you're playing 150 or Bobby, I'll encourage you to put like for freaking $3. I would encourage like some of this just in case.
That would be about the max I would go.
Yeah,
I don't see any reason to play him here. I don't buy for a second that he's getting a full workload. That's absolutely no way that's happening. They're not going to sit a guy out for over a month and then bring him back and have him throw 100 pitches. There's just a 0% chance that happens unless he has a no-hitter or a perfect game going.
There it is, no-hitter.
Yeah. So Merrill Kelly is not even on my board.
Okay.
At the same ownership, at the same zero ownership, I can play Abbott.
He's literally not on my board, by the way. Like I don't even have him projected yet. So.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's really hard for me to justify the Matz thing, but I do want to find these lower. Like, why is Matz that much better or worse of a play than like I think Rich Hill and Matz are actually like close?
Well, because we're going to get to Alex Cobb in a second.
No, I'm just saying yeah. And I actually thought that Matz would be a little Yeah, I guess I'll consider Matz on the list. But that's pretty much most of my interest in this game. And I also think while I might have a little bit of Matz, I probably will be a little bit higher on Arizona. I just like betting on this team in general. They've got, maybe they shift the lineup around a little bit because it's a lefty and you get like Rivera. Sometimes they bat Carroll, they've batted 6. Although they should keep him at the top. But you probably get Herrera in there, a catcher at 2,200. Nick Ahmed is 2,600, so it makes the stack a little easier. I'm okay with the idea of a stack of Arizona. All right, but then we're going to move into some better situations here.
Yeah. Okay. So Oakland, San Francisco. I like both sides of the San Francisco side here. Alex Cobb, as far as a cheap pitcher, and San Francisco. Again, San Francisco is always frustrating to play with the pinch hitting and stuff like that. And you don't know really even how far Waldichuk's going. But they certainly rate to be a good option. So Alex Cobb and San Francisco for me.
Yeah. So I think you could definitely make a case for San Francisco. I think you could make a case for Oakland.
Ooh.
I mean, I like the San Francisco idea, and I actually think like look at the games that he's struggled with like lately. Cobb's a good pitcher. Like he has a bad outing against Cincinnati. I'm not going to worry about it. Ignore the All-Star game appearance. So the 3.65 points, but he's pretty solid. And it's Oakland. I think we have to have him as certainly one of the guys to prioritize, in my opinion. I would like him a little bit cheaper because he's been that way a lot of the season, but you can't have everything. And I'm definitely high on San Francisco tonight. I'm gonna take every shot. When you have like inexperienced bad pitching staffs and I don't know, the teams that I feel like I just are very, I just feel very good about them, like as in terms of discipline. Although this is not the same Giants team, they've been really. I mean, obviously they're in first place, but I think this is just a good spot to play the Giants here. So, but I think the other side of it, this is really interesting because like, do you know what SaberSim has the run totals for this game?
Yeah, I could tell you in a second. But
I can tell you right now, but like I just wanted to see if it's shocking because it's probably the biggest gap I've seen between the actual line scores and the one, because they're a full 2.5 runs heavier on this game, which is pretty. It's just a lot, you know. They have the Oakland as projected with 4.5 runs. That's pretty wild. I don't know. Just thought it was kind of interesting.
Well, the total itself 10.5.
They have it at 10.5 on SaberSim.
I bet you that gets adjusted.
I kind of get like a little bit of the argument for it, where that Cobb does have some bad games, and 4.5 is not like a crazy. I don't know. 2.9 seems low, and that's what their total is in Vegas.
Well, 6 for San Francisco seems really high. Also,
6 is, but their actual one is 5.1. It's not like that.
That's a lot, though. A full run, isn't it? I mean.
Well, no, it is, but it's less than when it's almost 2 full runs.
Right.
Exactly. And you're talking about a run and a half less. Anyway, none of that's neither here nor there. So then we end up with the game with the Dodger sheets. You got to start us off here because I guess I'll finish up after, but
yeah. I'll tell you, man, this Chris Bassett's an interesting bird as far as his results go. You know, like finally put a couple decent outings together. Every once in a while, he'll put up a good game, and then like a whole bunch of minuses and stuff like that. I don't need to mess around with that. And then Urias, I touted him pretty hard in his last start, and when it was like a 3-game slate, and he got. Can I say obliterated? I know you hate when I say that, but
no, he did.
8 runs sucks.
Obliterated completely.
Yeah. But this is speaking of weird distribution of results. I mean, look at this. He has 3 negatives surrounded by two 30s. You know,
and he's been injured though, and he's coming back from the injury. But even since then, he's had still some of these struggles. Sorry,
I have a feeling. I'm probably just going to end up just passing on this game. Right now, if I ran my stuff right now, I wouldn't get much of any of it. And I kind of would feel not comfortable with it, but I feel like, okay, fine. You know what I mean? I don't think I need to take any big stands on this game.
Yeah, okay. The problem is that there's not a whole lot else to really love. I like Urias as a pivot at 0 ownership. I think that's totally reasonable. Okay. And he's going to have no ownership. I'll play a little bit of him. I actually don't like the pitchers against the Dodgers, but if I'm going to be mass multi-entering and playing other guys in this range, I never mind including a guy like a Bassett or whatever, but probably ends up on the outside looking in for me in Bassett's case. I think the Dodgers are completely viable. It's Bassett is just it's the stereotype. He's just a good pitcher. He doesn't throw overly hard. He has pretty good control most of the time. And the Dodgers I like betting on the Dodgers against right-handed pitchers. That's all I can say. Like, and on top of it, we're having the unseasonably hot, with 82 with winds blowing out to center. I think I'm gonna have to get some Dodger exposure, and I wouldn't fault anybody if they wanted to get a little Blue Jay exposure with what Urias has been doing. But I think the Dodgers would be the more of the one for me. So my priorities, though, are going to be San Francisco, Atlanta, and Boston. The problem is if the Atlanta-Boston game goes, I'm kind of looking at a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm not all that crazy about. The pitching for me, the priorities: Kirby, Burns, Abbott, Snell, Cobb, and probably I'm going to throw in Lopez into that mix. The other lineups that I'm considering stacking: Colorado, Washington, Cleveland, Cubs, lefties, especially Texas, Houston, Arizona, Dodgers, Toronto, San Diego. But the main ones are San Francisco, Atlanta, and Boston for me.
Yeah. Chicago, Boston, Atlanta, San Francisco would be my top on DraftKings if the game plays. So again, this Boston Atlanta news is pretty big.
Yeah.
So where did you come off on Verlander?
I'm going to play some of him, but he's not a priority.
Okay.
And I also need the weather to clear out a little, so I don't have to worry about a delay or anything. The studs who are getting older, I've seen them scratch sometimes, even if the game is delayed at the beginning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't want to mess too much with it until I know a little more. But I'm looking forward to the mass building. The problem with my mass building today is I'm betting I'm going to be having a lot on the Giants, who always release their lineup late. And I literally, this is going to sound funny to most people, but I have to be I'm taking my kid and his mom, we're going to see the Barbie movie at 4. So I don't know. I have to literally book it right out of here and then keep my what's it called on me, my iPad in the theater. So that's what I'm looking at tonight.
Well, have fun with the Barbie.
Thanks. I have to go see all of them new movies. It's been so long since I've been able to see movies in theaters.
What do they say? They see the double feature. You go to Barbie, you sneak out to go see Oppenheimer or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Well, actually, that's what I would want to do. But I know I have to play to the audience here. Although it's not really my kid. It's more his mom that's into the Barbie thing. But man, what a sensation that movie became. I do want to say one thing. I really hope that Bronny James is okay. That was a horrible thing to read this morning. And I just felt God, it's the kind of thing where your first instincts are maybe this guy's not going to end up playing any more basketball. So just shooting out a little hope there for Bronny James. Very, very scary when that stuff happens.
How do you think it happened, though? I mean,
it happens with basketball players sometimes. He probably has an enlarged heart.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the first thing that happened with Reggie Lewis. I hate to say it, but now with medicine getting better and things, I mean, you've seen this, this stuff has happened before, and there's guys who even have heart, what's his name? The Bills guy who had the heart attack on the field. Sometimes it's just, some people have certain things where, and the problem is though, if you're a basketball player with that kind of issue, it's probably, even if everything's okay with him physically, probably is going to ruin his career in basketball. That's my guess.
Yeah.
At least that was my first instinct. I don't remember a lot of guys having heart attacks on the court and coming back and playing, except for Hank Adams. And we saw that.
I think you might be right.
Really, really sad. Same thing. And also, I mean, look, Lonzo Mourning had to retire early for the same thing,
That's true.
Anyway, all right. Good luck today, everybody. Good luck, Eric. Hopefully we see you later, but if not, we understand. And guys, I'll see you at 6 either way.
All right.